Her stepmother boiled a pot of water and poured it across her face, just to ruin her chance with the young billionaire who loved her. Overnight, the girl everyone admired became scarred and broken, hidden away in shame while her stepsister laughed in triumph. But when the truth came out, the young billionaire refused to turn his back on her. Instead, he stood by her side, proving that love is stronger than cruelty. What followed was a battle for justice, a heartbreaking choice of forgiveness, and a wedding the world would never forget. But the question is, how did a girl once destroyed by jealousy rise from the ashes to inspire millions? Before we continue, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more stories like this. Now let's dive in. The Parker mansion stood tall and proud on Willow Lane, its white pillars gleaming under the afternoon sun. From the outside, it looked like a house filled with warmth, laughter, and family love. But inside, for Emily Parker, it was a prison. Emily was 22, soft-spoken and graceful, with chestnut-brown hair that spilled down her back like silk. Her eyes, deep blue like a calm ocean, carried a quiet sadness that few ever noticed. Though she was kind, hard-working, and beautiful, she lived under the cruel hand of her stepmother Victoria Parker and her stepsister Olivia. Victoria was a woman of sharp angles, her cheekbones, her heels, even her voice. She carried herself like royalty, always dressed in expensive silk gowns and dripping in jewelry. Her daughter, Olivia, had inherited her arrogance but none of her beauty. Olivia was pretty enough, with golden hair and hazel eyes, but her heart was rotten with envy. Emily was treated as a servant in her own father's house. After her father's death years ago, Victoria had taken over everything, his wealth, his estate, and even Emily's dignity. Emily! Victoria's shrill voice echoed from upstairs. Where is my tea? Do you think I have all day to wait? Emily hurried from the kitchen, balancing a silver tray with a delicate china cup. She entered the lavish living room, where Victoria sat on a velvet couch, flipping through a glossy fashion magazine. Here, stepmother, Emily said softly, placing the tray on the glass table. Victoria looked at her with disdain. How many times must I tell you? Don't call me stepmother. It makes me sound old. Call me madam. Or better yet, don't call me anything at all. Just do your job. Yes, madam, Emily whispered, lowering her eyes. From the corner, Olivia snickered. She lounged in an armchair, scrolling through her phone. Honestly, mother, I don't know why you even let her stay here. She's useless. Look at her, dressed in those boring clothes. She's like a maid. Emily's cheeks burned, but she said nothing. She wore a plain cotton dress, faded from years of use. Her stepmother never allowed her to wear anything new or stylish, saying it was a waste. Victoria smirked. That's exactly what she is, Olivia. A maid in this house. And she should be grateful. If it weren't for me, she'd be on the streets. Emily clenched her hands together. Don't cry, she told herself. She had learned long ago that tears only made them laugh louder. Just then, the doorbell rang. Olivia's eyes lit up. That must be Claire. We're going shopping for the gala tonight. Victoria perked up. Ah yes, the charity gala. The perfect chance for us to shine. Olivia, you must look your absolute best. Who knows? Perhaps tonight, you'll catch the attention of someone important. Maybe even a billionaire. Olivia tossed her hair and grinned. Don't worry, mother. With my beauty and your guidance, I'll have every man in the room staring. Victoria's eyes slid to Emily, cold and calculating. As for you, Emily, you'll be coming too. But not as a guest. You'll be there to assist Olivia. Make sure her dress looks perfect, fetch her drinks, and stay out of sight. Do you understand? Emily's heart sank. Yes, madam. Olivia smirked. Don't worry, mother. Nobody will even notice her. She's invisible. But they were wrong. Very wrong. The ballroom of the Grand Regency Hotel sparkled with golden chandeliers, polished marble floors, and the sound of violins playing softly in the background. The annual charity gala was the event of the year, attended by the city's wealthiest families, celebrities, and philanthropists. Emily walked behind Olivia, carrying the train of her emerald green gown so it wouldn't drag on the floor. Olivia glowed in diamonds, her lips painted scarlet, her head held high. Victoria followed beside her, her own gown shimmering with sequins, her presence commanding attention. Emily, on the other hand, wore a simple beige dress that barely reached her ankles. She kept her head low, her hair pinned back plainly. She felt like a shadow among all the glittering stars. As they entered, whispers floated around the ballroom. "There's Victoria Parker and her daughter Olivia. Such style, such grace. Who's that girl behind them? Probably a maid." Emily pretended not to hear. She focused on her task, carrying Olivia's clutch, holding her shawl, making sure her lipstick didn't smudge. But fate had other plans. At the far end of the ballroom stood Ethan Blake, the young billionaire whose name alone carried power. At 28, he was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and piercing grey eyes that seemed to see through people. Ethan was known not just for his wealth, but for his generosity, funding schools, hospitals, and shelters. Unlike many others in the room, he didn't care for empty flattery or shallow charm. When his eyes first landed on Emily, it was like the rest of the room disappeared. She stood near the refreshment table, pouring a glass of water for Olivia. Her movements were quiet, graceful, almost humble. She didn't try to catch anyone's attention, and that was what caught his. "Who is she?" Ethan wondered. "She doesn't belong to this world of pretense." He began walking toward her. Emily felt someone's presence and looked up. Her breath caught. The man approaching her was striking, his presence commanding yet warm. For a moment, she thought he must be coming for Olivia or Victoria. She quickly lowered her gaze. But then his voice came, deep and calm. "Good evening," Ethan said. "I don't think we've met." Emily's heart raced. She looked around, certain he was speaking to someone else. But his eyes were fixed on her. I'm Emily," she stammered softly. "Emily," he repeated, as if testing how her name felt on his tongue. "It's nice to meet you. Are you enjoying the gala?" Emily hesitated. "Oh, I'm not really here as a guest. I'm just helping my stepsister." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Helping? You make it sound like you don't belong." Before Emily could answer, Olivia appeared, her smile wide and false. "Mr. Blake," she said, her voice dripping with sugar. "What a surprise. I've been hoping to meet you. I'm Olivia Parker." Ethan gave her a polite nod but didn't take his eyes off Emily. "Pleasure," he said briefly. Olivia noticed his gaze and frowned. She slipped her arm through his. "Come, let me introduce you to my mother. We were just talking about the amazing work you've been doing." Ethan gently but firmly removed her hand. "Perhaps later. I was having a conversation with Emily." Olivia's face froze. "With Emily?" She glanced at her stepsister in disbelief, her voice dripping with mockery. "Oh, she's just nobody important." Ethan's grey eyes hardened. "Everyone is important, Miss Parker." Emily felt her cheeks burn. She wanted to disappear, but Ethan's steady gaze anchored her. Victoria appeared next, her smile tight as she sensed the shift in attention. "Mr. Blake," she greeted warmly. "I am Victoria Parker. What an honor to finally meet you." Ethan gave a small nod. "The honor is mine. Your family is interesting." He glanced at Emily again, and Victoria noticed. Victoria's smile faltered, but she quickly recovered. "Emily is just my stepdaughter. She's a bit shy, not used to these grand events." Ethan smiled faintly, his eyes softening toward Emily. "Shy, perhaps. But there's something refreshing about honesty in a room full of masks." Emily's breath caught again. Nobody had ever spoken about her like that before. Olivia clenched her fists at her side. How dare he notice her? The rest of the night, Ethan found reasons to return to Emily's side, asking her opinion on the charity projects, offering her a glass of punch, even sharing a quiet laugh over the pompous speeches being made on stage. Emily tried to keep her composure, but inside her heart was fluttering like a trapped bird. Olivia, watching from across the room, burned with jealousy. She had dreamed of becoming Ethan Blake's wife, of basking in his wealth and status. But now, the man she wanted was looking at Emily, the stepdaughter she despised. As the gala drew to a close, Ethan turned to Emily and said softly, "I'd like to see you again." "May I?" Emily's eyes widened. She didn't know what to say. Nobody had ever asked her such a thing. I don't know if that's a good idea," she whispered. "Why not?" Ethan asked gently. "Because," she glanced at Olivia and Victoria, who were glaring at her from a distance. "My family won't like it." Ethan leaned closer, his voice low. "Then let it be our secret for now." Emily's heart pounded as she nodded slightly. For the first time in years, she felt seen. But across the room, Olivia and Victoria exchanged dark looks. And in their hearts, a storm of hatred was already brewing. The gala was over, but for Emily, the night lived on in her heart. As the limousine rolled down the quiet streets, Olivia and Victoria were still buzzing with irritation. "I cannot believe," Olivia hissed, glaring at her stepmother, "that Ethan Blake, wasted his time speaking to her." To Emily, "It's humiliating." Victoria, fanning herself with a jeweled hand, sneered. "Calm yourself, darling. A man like Ethan may glance at a simple girl, but he won't stay interested for long. These men want class, beauty, and status. Emily has none of those." Olivia leaned against the seat, her eyes burning. "But what if he does? What if he sees something in her?" Victoria's smile sharpened like a blade. "Then we'll make sure he doesn't." Emily, sitting quietly in the corner, hugged Olivia's clutch to her chest. She said nothing, but her cheeks still glowed from Ethan's words, "Then let it be our secret for now." Days passed, and Emily's world began to change in ways she never expected. One morning, while polishing the silverware, the doorbell rang. Olivia rushed to answer it, thinking it might be one of her friends. But when she opened the door, she froze. There stood Ethan Blake, tall and confident, holding a bouquet of fresh white lilies. "Good morning," Ethan said calmly. "I've come to see Emily." Olivia's jaw dropped. "You've come to see her?" Victoria appeared behind her, her smile tight. "Mr. Blake. What a pleasant surprise. But I'm afraid Emily is terribly busy. She has chores, laundry, cleaning, errands. She isn't the type of girl to entertain visitors like yourself." Ethan's eyes flicked past them, spotting Emily at the staircase. She was holding a dust rag, her hair tied back in a simple braid, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "Emily," he said warmly, "these are for you." He stepped forward, handing her the lilies. Emily hesitated, her heart racing. No one had ever given her flowers before. Thank you," she whispered, her hands trembling as she accepted them. Victoria's face darkened. "Mr. Blake, really, this is unnecessary. Emily doesn't belong in your circle. Surely you understand that." Ethan's voice grew firm. "With respect, Mrs. Parker, I decide who belongs in my life. And Emily, she belongs." Olivia gasped as if slapped. "This is ridiculous. She's plain, she's boring, she's kind," Ethan interrupted sharply. "And unlike most people I've met, she's genuine." Emily's eyes widened, tears pricking them. Nobody had ever defended her like this. Victoria forced a laugh, though her hands trembled. "Well then, Mr. Blake, if you insist. Emily, don't keep your friend waiting." Emily stepped forward nervously. I don't know what to say." Ethan smiled softly. "Say you'll join me for a walk. Just a walk. Nothing more." Emily nodded, her heart hammering. She placed the lilies in a vase and followed him out the door, leaving Victoria and Olivia seething behind. They strolled through the city park, the morning sun painting the sky with gold. Emily kept her eyes low, afraid of the curious stares they received. Ethan, however, seemed not to notice. "Emily," he said gently, "you have nothing to be ashamed of. You hold yourself as though the world is watching, waiting to mock you. But when I see you, I see someone strong." Emily's throat tightened. "You don't know me, Ethan. My life, it isn't like yours. I'm not from wealth, I'm not glamorous. I'm just ordinary." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "No. You are extraordinary. Do you know why I noticed you at the gala? Because while everyone else was performing, pretending, showing off, you were simply being yourself. That is rare, Emily." Her eyes filled with tears. She turned her face away. "If Olivia or my stepmother hear you say that, They already heard me," Ethan said firmly. "And I don't care. Let them rage. My feelings won't change." For a moment, Emily stood frozen, her breath caught in her chest. No one had ever chosen her over Olivia before. I don't know what to say," she whispered. Ethan smiled softly. "Then don't say anything. Just allow yourself to be happy." And for the first time in years, Emily felt a flicker of happiness burning in her chest. But shadows were already gathering back at the Parker mansion. The house felt like a storm brewing. Victoria paced the living room, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Olivia sat curled on the couch, her face twisted in fury. "I can't believe it." Olivia spat. "Ethan Blake, my Ethan, choosing Emily over me. It's humiliating, Mother. Humiliating." Victoria poured herself a glass of wine, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Calm yourself, Olivia. Anger clouds judgment. We cannot let this go on. If Ethan marries Emily, everything I've worked for collapses. Our reputation, our wealth, our future, it all vanishes." Olivia clenched her fists. "Then stop her. Stop her from stealing him from me." Victoria's eyes glinted coldly. She set down her glass and leaned closer to her daughter. "Then we shall. But not with petty tricks or gossip. No, Emily must be ruined." Olivia's brow furrowed. "Ruined? How?" Victoria's smile was chilling. "Men like Ethan value beauty. Emily's beauty is her only weapon, her only advantage. Take that away, and he will turn from her." Olivia shivered. "What do you mean?" Victoria leaned back, her voice low and venomous. "We will scar her. Permanently." Olivia's eyes widened. "Mother, no. That's too far." Victoria's gaze hardened. "Do you want Ethan to be yours, Olivia? Do you want the life of wealth, of power, of admiration? Then sacrifices must be made." Olivia swallowed hard, fear and desire warring inside her. Victoria stood, her face cold as stone. Boiling water. Quick. Silent. No trace of suspicion. An accident, they will call it. But by then, Emily will be unrecognizable. Olivia's hands trembled. "But what if Ethan finds out?" Victoria's eyes narrowed. "He won't. We'll say she was careless, that she spilled it on herself. The world will believe us. And even if they don't, Ethan won't marry a scarred woman. Trust me, darling. Beauty is everything in this world. Once it's gone, so is love." Olivia sat in silence, her heart pounding. Deep inside, a voice whispered that this was wrong, monstrous. But another voice, darker and louder, reminded her of Ethan's grey eyes locked on Emily, not her. And jealousy, burning like fire, won. "I'll help," Olivia said at last, her voice trembling. Victoria's smile was cruel and triumphant. "Good girl." Together, We will end this nonsense once and for all. That night, as Emily folded laundry in her room, unaware of the storm brewing around her, Victoria and Olivia whispered in the kitchen, watching a pot of water bubble and steam on the stove. Victoria's eyes gleamed in the rising vapor. By tomorrow, Emily Parker will no longer be a threat. Olivia stared into the boiling pot, her stomach twisting with dread. She clenched her fists. This is for my future. This is for Ethan. The steam hissed like a serpent, filling the room with the promise of cruelty yet to come. And in her room, Emily hummed softly, dreaming of Ethan's words, completely unaware of the nightmare that was about to descend. The house was unusually quiet that evening. The rain outside tapped against the windows, and the smell of dinner still lingered in the air. Emily sat in her small room at the far end of the hall, folding freshly washed sheets. She hummed softly to herself, her mind wandering to Ethan, his voice, his eyes, the way he had told her she belonged. A tiny smile curved her lips as she smoothed out the fabric. For the first time in years, hope warmed her heart. Downstairs, however, a far darker warmth was building. In the kitchen, a large pot sat on the stove, water rolling to a furious boil. Steam rose thickly into the air, curling around Victoria's sharp features. She stood over it with a cold smile. "It's ready." Olivia wrung her hands nervously. Her stomach twisted as she watched the bubbling water. The hissing and spitting reminded her of a snake, alive and dangerous. "Mother, are you sure about this?" she whispered. Victoria turned her gaze on her daughter, eyes like ice. "If you want Ethan, this is the only way. Once her face is ruined, he will never look at her again. And you will be free to shine." Olivia hesitated, her heart pounding. She could hear her own doubts screaming inside her, but jealousy roared louder. She pictured Ethan's arm around Emily, his voice softened only for her. Olivia clenched her fists. "Fine. Let's do it." Victoria carefully lifted the pot with a thick towel, her arm steady despite the heat. The boiling water sloshed dangerously close to the rim. "Stay out of sight. If anyone asks, you know nothing. This must look like an accident." Olivia swallowed hard and nodded. They crept upstairs, silent as shadows. The wooden floor creaked beneath them, but Emily was too lost in her small daydreams to notice. She bent over the bed, smoothing a pillow, humming softly. Victoria stepped into the doorway, her voice sugar-sweet. "Emily, darling." Emily turned, surprised. "Stepmother, do you need something?" Victoria's lips twisted into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, just this." Before Emily could react, Victoria hurled the pot forward. The scalding water exploded across Emily's face and chest. "Ah!" Emily's scream ripped through the house like thunder. She dropped to the floor, clawing at her skin, her body convulsing with pain. Her dress clung to her, soaked with boiling water, her skin already blistering and peeling. The sheets she had folded scattered across the floor like fallen petals. "Help! Help me!" Emily shrieked, her voice raw, echoing down the hall. Neighbors heard. The sound pierced the quiet neighborhood, and doors began to open. Victoria dropped the empty pot, her expression hard and cold. "Clumsy girl. Look what you've done to yourself." Olivia stood frozen in the hall, her face pale, her heart pounding so hard she thought it would burst. The smell of burning flesh and fabric filled the air, making her gag. "Mother," she whispered, horrified. "Silence!" Victoria snapped, grabbing her daughter's wrist and pulling her back. Emily writhed on the floor, sobbing, her hands clawing at her ruined skin. Her voice broke into hoarse cries. "Please, please help me. It hurts. Someone, please." The neighbors burst into the front door, having rushed at the sound of her screams. Mrs. Helen Turner, the widow who lived 2 houses down, pushed past the others. She was in her 50s, with kind grey eyes and a strong, sturdy frame. She gasped at the sight. "Dear Lord above! Emily!" She rushed to her side, pulling off her shawl and trying to cover Emily's burned chest. "It's all right, child. I'm here. Hold on." Emily's body shook violently, her sobs raw and broken. "It hurts. It hurts so much." "Stay with me," Mrs. Turner whispered, her own eyes brimming with tears. "We'll get you to help. Stay with me, sweetheart." The other neighbors murmured in shock, glancing at Victoria, who quickly put on a mask of panic. "It was an accident," Victoria cried. "She was boiling water for tea. She must have tripped." Mrs. Turner looked up, her expression fierce. "This girl doesn't need excuses. She needs a doctor. Now." She called for two of the men to help lift Emily. They wrapped her in a blanket, her cries muffled but still heart-wrenching. "Take her to Dr. Clark's clinic," Mrs. Turner ordered. "It's closest." Victoria tried to protest. No, she doesn't need." Mrs. Turner spun on her. "Enough, Victoria. I've seen enough of your cruelty over the years. Don't think I haven't noticed the way you treat her. This," she gestured at Emily's trembling form, "is no accident." Victoria's mask cracked, her lips tightening, but she said nothing. As the neighbors carried Emily out into the stormy night, her screams echoing in the rain, Olivia felt her stomach twist with guilt. She clutched her arms tightly, whispering to herself, "What have I done?" But Victoria's cold hand gripped her shoulder. "Do not waver now. It's done." And in the distance, Emily's cries faded into the night. The clinic smelled of antiseptic and damp wood. It was small, just 2 rooms, but Dr. Clark was kind and quick with his hands. He worked silently, wrapping Emily's burns, his brow furrowed in concentration. Emily lay on the narrow bed, her body trembling, her breath shallow. Her face was wrapped in gauze, but her tears soaked through, dampening the bandages. Mrs. Turner sat beside her, holding her hand. "You're safe now, child. You're safe." Emily's voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. "Safe? Look at me. I'm ruined. My face, my chest. I'll never be the same." Mrs. Turner squeezed her hand gently. "Your worth is not in your face, Emily. You are more than beauty. You are kind, you are strong, you are good. Don't let them take that from you." Emily turned her head away, sobbing quietly. "But Ethan will never want me now. He loved my smile, my eyes, and they're gone. Everything is gone." Dr. Clark straightened, wiping his hands on a cloth. "The burns are severe. She'll need time, rest, and careful treatment. But the scars will remain." Emily flinched as if struck. The words echoed in her ears. "The scars will remain." Mrs. Turner's heart ached as she saw Emily curl into herself, trembling. 4 days, Emily lay in that clinic bed, wrapped in bandages, drifting between pain and restless sleep. The neighbors came and went, bringing food, whispering in sympathy. But Emily could not bear their pitying eyes. She kept her face turned away, refusing to look in the mirror Dr. Clark had left on the table. On the 4th day, she finally asked Mrs. Turner in a broken whisper, "Bring me the mirror." Mrs. Turner hesitated. "Child, are you sure?" Emily nodded weakly. With trembling hands, she took the small mirror and held it before her face. She peeled back the bandages just enough to see one cheek. Her skin was mottled, red and shiny, with patches of blistered flesh. She gasped and dropped the mirror, her whole body shaking. "No, no, no, no." She buried her face in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm hideous. I'm a monster. Ethan, he'll never look at me again." Mrs. Turner gathered her into her arms, rocking her gently. "Hush now, sweetheart. Don't say that. You are still you. You are still Emily. And anyone who truly loves you will see that." But Emily shook her head violently. "You don't understand. Men like Ethan, they want beauty. They want perfection. Why would he want a scarred, broken girl?" Mrs. Turner stroked her hair. Because a man worth loving wants more than a pretty face. He wants a soul. And yours, child, is more beautiful than any diamond. Emily cried until her body gave out, and she fell asleep in Mrs. Turner's arms. Meanwhile, back at the Parker mansion, Victoria and Olivia sat in the darkened living room. The air was heavy with tension. "People are talking," Olivia whispered. "They say you hurt her on purpose." Mrs. Turner told everyone. Victoria's eyes flashed. "Let them talk. Without proof, they have nothing. And once Emily hides away in shame, the gossip will fade." Olivia bit her lip, doubt gnawing at her. She could still hear Emily's screams in her ears. At night, she dreamed of her scarred face and woke in a cold sweat. "Mother, what if Ethan finds out?" Victoria's mouth curled into a cruel smile. "Then he will see what Emily has become. And he will walk away." Olivia nodded slowly, trying to convince herself it was true. But deep inside, guilt and fear were eating her alive. Back at the clinic, Emily stared at the ceiling in silence, her bandaged face turned away from the door. She had stopped humming, stopped dreaming. Her only thought was loss of beauty, of love, of hope. Mrs. Turner watched her with aching sorrow. She whispered a silent prayer that someone, anyone, would show Emily she was still worthy of love. And far across the city, Ethan Blake sat at his desk, staring at the phone. He had not heard from Emily in days. Whispers of an accident had reached him, but details were scarce. His jaw tightened, his heart pounding with dread. "Something's wrong. And I will find out what." The rain had stopped, leaving the city washed clean, but Ethan Blake felt no calm that evening. He sat at his desk in his high-rise office, his phone in his hand. For days, he had sent messages to Emily, called her number, but there had been no reply. A gnawing worry grew inside him. He remembered her gentle voice, her hesitant smile. She wouldn't just disappear. Something's wrong. Finally, he ordered his driver. "Take me to Willow Lane." When Ethan arrived at the Parker mansion, Victoria greeted him at the door, her face painted with false warmth. "Mr. Blake," she said sweetly. "What a surprise. What brings you here?" Ethan's eyes were sharp, his tone clipped. "Where is Emily?" Victoria's smile faltered. "Oh, Emily. I'm afraid she's gone." "Gone?" Ethan's brows furrowed. "Yes," Victoria lied smoothly. "She couldn't handle the attention of your world, Mr. Blake. She left. Vanished without a word. A shame, really, but she was never suited for you." Ethan's chest tightened. He knew she was lying. Her voice was too slick, her smile too quick. "I don't believe you," he said flatly. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Believe what you want. But Emily isn't here." He turned to leave, his jaw tight. As he walked down the street, an older voice called out, "Mr. Blake." He turned to see Mrs. Helen Turner rushing from her gate, her grey shawl fluttering in the wind. "I've been hoping to see you," she panted. "You need to know the truth about Emily." Ethan's heart leapt. "Where is she? Is she all right?" Mrs. Turner's eyes filled with sorrow. "She's alive. But she's not all right. Come with me." Minutes later, Ethan entered the small clinic. The antiseptic smell hit him immediately. His eyes landed on the frail figure lying on the narrow bed, her face and chest wrapped in white bandages. "Emily," his voice cracked. She stirred, her breath catching. Slowly, she turned her head, her blue eyes meeting his. Shame and fear flooded her gaze. She quickly looked away. "Don't look at me," she whispered hoarsely. "Please, don't." Ethan moved closer, kneeling beside the bed. "Why would I not look at you?" "Because," her voice trembled. Tears slid from beneath the bandages. "I'm ruined, Ethan. My face, my body, everything. You deserve someone beautiful, not a scarred girl like me." Ethan's throat tightened. He reached out, gently taking her trembling hand in his. "Emily, listen to me," he said firmly. "I didn't fall in love with your face. I fell in love with you. Your kindness, your heart, the way you see the world. Scars cannot change that." Her lips trembled. "But everyone will laugh. They'll say you married a broken woman." "Then let them laugh," Ethan said, his voice steady. "Their words mean nothing. What matters is you. I will stand by you, Emily, always." Her tears flowed freely now. For days, she had been drowning in despair, certain she had lost him. Yet here he was, his devotion burning brighter than ever. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you choose me when you could have anyone?" Ethan smiled softly, brushing her hair back from her face. "Because anyone can have beauty. But only I found you." Emily broke into sobs, clutching his hand as if it were her lifeline. "Don't leave me, Ethan. Please." He kissed her bandaged forehead gently. "Never. I'll never leave you." Mrs. Turner, watching from the doorway, pressed a hand to her heart. Tears filled her eyes. At last, someone who sees her worth. The next morning, Ethan arranged for Emily's transfer to a private hospital, the best in the city. Doctors and nurses fussed over her, ensuring she had the finest care. Yet, no matter how many professionals surrounded her, Ethan stayed at her side, holding her hand through every painful treatment. One night, as the moonlight streamed through the hospital window, Emily whispered, "I don't know if I'll ever be the same again." Ethan squeezed her hand. "You don't need to be the same. You only need to be yourself. And that's more than enough." For the first time since the attack, Emily allowed herself a faint, fragile smile. Back at the Parker mansion, however, Victoria and Olivia fumed. "Ethan took her to a private hospital," Olivia said bitterly. "He's still with her, mother. Even now." Victoria's jaw clenched. "Impossible. He'll grow tired once he sees the scars. Just wait. Beauty doesn't last, but disgust does." Olivia nodded, though uneasily. She wanted to believe her mother, but deep inside, fear gnawed at her. What if love was stronger than beauty? Weeks passed. Emily slowly regained her strength, though the scars on her face and chest remained. She wore scarves and bandages, often avoiding mirrors, but her spirit, once broken, was beginning to mend, thanks to Ethan's constant presence. One morning, Ethan entered her room with a determined look. "Emily, it's time." "Time for what?" she asked softly. "Time to seek justice," he said. "Victoria and Olivia tried to destroy you. They cannot get away with it." Emily's heart raced. The thought of facing them terrified her. But she remembered the pain, the betrayal, the way her stepmother had smiled as she poured the boiling water. Her hands trembled, but she nodded. "Yes, it's time." The courtroom buzzed with whispers as the trial began. Reporters filled the benches, cameras flashing. Everyone wanted to witness the scandal of the Parker family. Victoria sat at the defendant's table, her face still painted with false dignity. Olivia sat beside her, pale and shaken, her eyes darting nervously around the room. When Emily entered, escorted by Ethan and Mrs. Turner, the room fell silent. She wore a simple navy dress, her scars partially visible, but she walked with quiet dignity. Ethan's hand supported her elbow, steady and strong. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "She dares show her face here," she muttered under her breath. Olivia looked away, guilt flooding her heart. The judge called for order, and the trial began. Witnesses were called, the neighbors who had heard Emily's screams, the men who had carried her to the clinic, and finally Mrs. Turner, who told the truth with unwavering strength. Then it was Emily's turn. She walked slowly to the stand, her heart pounding. The whole courtroom seemed to hold its breath. "Emily," the prosecutor said gently, "tell us what happened that night." Emily's hands shook as she gripped the edge of the stand. She glanced at Ethan, who nodded encouragingly. Taking a deep breath, she began. My stepmother came into my room, she said softly. She was carrying a pot of boiling water. She smiled at me, and then she threw it. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Emily's eyes filled with tears. The pain, it was unbearable. I begged for help, but she just stood there. She said I was clumsy. But I know the truth. She wanted to ruin me so Ethan wouldn't love me. Her voice broke, but she forced herself to continue. She wanted to take away my future. But she failed. Because even with these scars, I am still me. And I am not afraid anymore. The room erupted in whispers again. Even the judge's eyes softened. Victoria's face twisted in fury. Lies! All lies! She's trying to destroy me. But Olivia suddenly stood, her voice trembling. No, Mother, it's true. Victoria's head whipped toward her daughter. Olivia, be quiet. Tears spilled down Olivia's cheeks. I can't, Mother. I can't live with it anymore. I helped you. I knew what you planned. And I let you do it. The courtroom gasped again. Victoria's face went pale. You foolish girl. Do you know what you've done? The judge banged his gavel. Order! Order in the court. The prosecutor nodded firmly. Your Honor, with the victim's testimony, the witnesses, and the confession of Olivia Parker, the evidence is overwhelming. We ask for the maximum sentence for Victoria Parker, attempted murder. Victoria screamed in rage, but guards restrained her. Olivia wept openly, burying her face in her hands. The judge's voice was stern. Victoria Parker, you are guilty of attempted murder. Olivia Parker, you are guilty of aiding and abetting. You will both serve prison sentences for your crimes. The gavel struck, and the decision was final. As Victoria and Olivia were led away in handcuffs, Olivia glanced back at Emily, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she whispered. Emily met her eyes calmly. I forgive you, Olivia. But I will never forget. Olivia sobbed as she was dragged away. Victoria, however, shouted curses, her dignity crumbling before the watching crowd. Emily stood tall, her scars visible, her spirit unbroken. Ethan slipped his arm around her shoulders, pride shining in his eyes. You were incredible, he whispered. Emily exhaled, her heart finally lighter. It's over. No, Ethan said softly, kissing her temple. It's just the beginning. Spring came, soft and fragrant, painting the world in blossoms and sunshine. For Emily, it felt like a new season in her life as well. The city buzzed with excitement when the announcement came. Ethan Blake and Emily Parker to wed in grand ceremony. Speculation swirled in gossip columns. Some wondered what Emily would wear, others whispered about her scars. But Emily no longer cared. She had lived through fire. Words could no longer wound her. The wedding morning. Emily stood before the mirror in her bridal chamber, dressed in a gown of ivory silk. The dress was elegant but simple, with a sweetheart neckline and delicate lace sleeves. Her scars were not hidden beneath heavy fabric or makeup. Instead, they peeked through gracefully, part of her as much as her smile or her eyes. Mrs. Turner fussed around her, adjusting her veil. Her eyes brimmed with tears. You look beautiful, Emily. Truly beautiful. Emily turned to her, taking her hands. I wouldn't be here without you, Mrs. Turner. You saved me when no one else did. Mrs. Turner smiled through her tears. And now you save yourself, every day you choose to keep going. Your parents would be proud. Emily's heart swelled. She hugged the older woman tightly. The grand cathedral was filled with guests, business leaders, socialites, friends, and neighbors. But the moment Ethan saw Emily walking down the aisle, everything else vanished. She walked slowly, her arm linked with Mrs. Turner's, who gave her away in place of the father she had lost long ago. Gasps rippled through the crowd as her scars caught the light. But then came silence, an awed, respectful silence, as they saw the dignity with which she carried them. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. To him, she was radiant, stronger, and more beautiful than anyone he had ever known. When she reached him, he whispered, "You take my breath away." Emily's lips trembled with a smile. "And you give me courage." The vows were spoken, simple but powerful. "I, Ethan Blake, take you, Emily Parker, as you are, scars and all. I vow to love you, to honor you, to stand beside you in every storm. I, Emily Parker, take you, Ethan Blake. You saw me when no one else did. You loved me when I could not love myself. I vow to share my life, my scars, my strength with you." When they kissed, the cathedral erupted in applause. Guests wiped tears, touched by a love that had triumphed over cruelty, fire, and fear. The reception was held in a garden lit with fairy lights. Music floated in the air, laughter mingled with joy. Emily and Ethan danced beneath the stars, her head resting against his chest, his hand holding her close. At one point, Ethan lifted a glass for a toast. "To my wife," he said, his voice steady, "who taught me that love is not about perfection, but about resilience. Her scars are not marks of weakness, but of strength. And I am the luckiest man alive to call her mine." The crowd erupted in cheers. Emily blushed, tears shining in her eyes. Later, as she walked through the garden, many guests approached her, not with pity, but with admiration. "You're an inspiration," they told her. "Your courage gives hope." And Emily realized that her scars, once a source of shame, had become a beacon of strength, for herself and for others. Weeks after the wedding, Emily and Ethan founded the Phoenix Foundation, named after the bird that rises from ashes. Its mission was to support victims of domestic violence and abuse, offering shelter, medical care, and a chance to rebuild. On the opening day, Emily gave a speech to a crowd of survivors and supporters. "I once thought my scars destroyed me," she said, her voice steady though her eyes glistened. "But now I see they gave me a new life. They remind me that pain can be turned into purpose, and that no one deserves to suffer in silence. This foundation is for all of us, for the women, men, and children who need to know they are not alone. We are more than what was done to us. We are survivors. We are phoenixes." Applause roared, and tears glistened in the eyes of many. Ethan watched her proudly, knowing that she had truly transformed pain into power. Years later, Emily stood in the foundation's garden, watching children play near the fountain. Ethan came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Thinking?" he asked softly. She smiled, leaning into him. "Just remembering. How far we've come. How I once thought my life was over." Ethan kissed her temple. "And now it's only beginning." Emily touched the faint scar on her cheek, no longer flinching at its presence. "These scars don't define me, but they tell my story. And it's a story I'm finally proud of." Ethan held her close. "It's our story." Together, they stood in the sunlight, proof that love could rise even from fire. If this story gripped you, imagine the twists still waiting to be told. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss the next tale of love, betrayal, and survival. And let me know in the comments, what would you have done if you were in her place?